Welcome to a Sunny Side Up Life podcast, a show for the woman who is ready to live an abundant life full of freedom and positivity. I'm Sami Womack, and I'm on a mission to help you break free from survival mode, gain financial freedom, stay motivated, and focus on what matters most. Join the movement and let's start living on the brighter side of life together. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode. I have another great interview lined up for you today with somebody really special to me. I have Kelsey here from Positively Delighted, and you guys may or may not know, Kelsey is also my cousin. So I'm probably disowned for making her be this late into the episodes. So, but she has a lot of awesome stuff to share with us. So Kelsey, go ahead and say hi and introduce yourself in the way that you want them to know about you. Not you don't have to tell them every single thing I know about you.
No pressure.
But so tell us about yourself, your podcast, your website, everything that you do.
Hey y'all, my name is Kelsey, and I am the face and voice behind positivelydelighted.com, which is all about creating a positive mindset and a life full of delight, laughter, and fun. In addition to running Positively Delighted, I'm also a singer-songwriter, and I run my own podcast production and Pinterest consulting marketing company.
Yes, you do everything. And that's
All
what
the
she
things.
said, before we hit record. I'm like, what do you want me to say for your bio? I'm just going to let you do it because you do everything.
This is a condensed version. Also, I do the majority of these things while also digital nomading around the country. And I have spent 15 weeks out of the last year camping out of my car.
Yeah. I like how you say digital nomading, but it's really you live in your car.
Well, I mean, because I don't live in my car all the time.
Yeah.
And also my dad keeps saying, don't say that you live in a car, because that could be like a bad thing.
Yeah.
Say, I live in a car.
Yeah.
But sometimes I do actually live in a car. But it's like a really cute car.
Yeah.
Not on the outside. I mean,
it's cool now.
Yeah.
When you're a millennial, you can get away with it and call it cool. And you're like, well, I have this digital business and I live in my car and I'm cool.
Yeah.
Our parents' his generation might not have gotten away with that.
Yeah. It's like, oh no, it's cool. Like, I'm location independent.
Yeah.
It's cool. I'm intentionally homeless.
Intentionally homeless.
I mean, I'm not homeless. I have a home. It's in a car. It just moves. It's like an RV, but really small.
Your bio. Intentionally homeless. So it is. We have a lot of the same things in common with the message that we're trying to share. And I often wonder if it's because we were both homeschooled, we're both naturally weird people, I guess. Obviously we come from the same family. So we're kind of have the same message of we want to make the world a little happier, a little brighter. We, do silly stuff, and we're both adults who spend half their time coloring. It's fine. But I want you to tell us a little bit more about how you grew up kind of non-traditionally, and how, obviously you already told us how you currently are living non-traditionally. But where did this start, and tell us about your parents' journey that they went through with their RV life and how that spilled over into your homeschooling and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it may come as a surprise to you, but I actually grew up in an RV. I know that's really hard to believe considering how I live now, but there was a time when I tried to be normal and it didn't work out for very long. I worked a corporate job for 11 months. So, I made it almost a year, and then I was like, I just can't do it. Can't do it. I will do anything. Please don't make me.
Kind of like the 9 months that I worked at Target. And that was the only time that I've ever had to wear a uniform in my entire life, and it was miserable.
I did actually have one position where I had to wear a uniform. I actually was the Chick-fil-A baby cow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that was a really fun uniform.
That's a fun uniform.
It's actually really hard, actually. Side tangent. Yes. childhood. That's where
Yes.
that's where I was going. I mean, that's
Yes.
part of my childhood, so that
It is.
tells you
Yes.
some things. Yeah. So when I was 12 years old, my parents decided that we were going to hit the road full time in an RV. That was not a common lifestyle at the
No.
time. It's actually it's much more common now. I feel like it's common
Yeah.
because I'm really involved in the RV community. But back then, this was like 2005. I mean, this is like the
Yeah.
age of like, I mean, I don't even know, like, was MySpace like as big as it was even in
I don't even
2005?
know if we had. It was about the time we got MySpace
Yeah.
because you got out of public school about the same time I got out of public school. So I was about 15.
Yeah.
So it was roughly around the same time.
Yeah.
So
You would have been more the age for it. I
yeah.
don't think I should have had a MySpace at 12, so probably not.
But yeah.
13 or 14 is a different story.
Yeah.
But we basically went on the road because my dad was traveling a lot for work and my brothers were off in college, and my mom and I wanted to be closer to my dad so we could spend more time with him. And so my parents just decided, like, hey, what if we sell our house, most of our worldly possessions, and we take you out of school and you get to sleep on a couch and be homeschooled?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really know how to respond to this. You seem very excited about it, but I guess I don't have another choice. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was pretty sulky about it. Just in
Well,
general, like
yeah.
normal like 12-year-old sulkiness.
Yeah.
But I had a couple other things going on at the same time. When I was 12, I was in the midst of some pretty major teeth
Yeah.
dilemma.
Yeah.
So I have two missing teeth, and I have since had, since I was 8, I found out when I was 8 that I was missing these two teeth. And since then, I'm now 25, I've had 3 surgeries, 5 dentists, 2 sets of braces, or well, 1 set of braces, 2 different orthodontists, and thousands of dollars of dental work. My smiles, it's literally like a dental masterpiece. Like, I have to smile as much as possible because it's like $5 back in our pocket every
Yeah,
time I
it's like
smile.
$1 million smile,
It
literally.
literally almost is. I mean, not that,
Not literally,
but
but
not literally, but like, I mean, as close as you could probably get.
yeah.
So I was in the midst of that, and when we first hit the road, I actually did not have the teeth. So I didn't have any fake teeth of any kind. I mean, like, when I say that, I had all my teeth except for 2. So it was just the 2 right next to the 2 front teeth that were missing. And so I was super self-conscious about it. If it were like some molars that were missing, no one would see that. I would just know, but I could live with it. But this was like, like, your smile is like your
It's
first
it.
impression.
Yeah.
And so I would be telling myself, like, every time I would start to feel joy. So like 12-year-old Kelsey, every time she would feel joy, I would mentally be like, stop it. This is bad. Do not show the world what is behind your mouth. This is not okay. So, like, can you imagine, like, every time you start to feel joy, like, telling yourself, like, hold up,
Don't smile.
don't do that.
No, I know, because like I think probably my favorite physical feature of myself is my smile, is my teeth.
Yeah.
Like I smile in pictures because I like how my teeth look.
Mm-hmm.
So like I can imagine how that
Yeah.
feels.
Yeah, and it was really frustrating too that I've always loved to sing. I started playing guitar when I was 13 when we were on the road, and as I started to write music, it was so frustrating that every few months at some point I would have to have some new dental appliance. I'd have to relearn how to talk.
Yeah.
I would have to relearn how to sing, and my parents did everything they could to go above and beyond and get the best dental appliances on the market to make sure that I was, well taken care of in the self-esteem department to the best of their abilities. And I still had just a lot of self-confidence work that needed to be done. I was not only homeschooled or road schooled, but also had like severe, like, self-inflicted self-esteem problems. So I had a lot to battle with. But when I was about 12, the movie The Secret came out, and I was just blown away. I didn't quite understand what the whole, like, law of attraction and, power of positive thinking and your thoughts become things, and what that exactly meant. I actually have like journal entries where I was like, my teeth are coming. my teeth are coming. Like I was going to manifest this. Like it was going to
Well,
grow in my gums. And I was like, I'm going to make this happen. But I guess what I didn't understand at the time is like, yes, they are coming. And shortly after all of that, I got my first fake teeth. And like looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, was it
did
planned? Or did I
manifest it.
manifest it? You know, like, I don't know. But I learned, you know, the teachings of like Jack Canfield and Marcy Shimoff and Mike Dooley and all these other like really amazing teachers from The Secret and Rhonda Byrne. And I was just like blown away by the power of positive thinking and mindset. And I started focusing on all of this. And I guess at the time it seemed very hippie-ish.
Yeah.
And
It
especially
still
because
does, but
it
we
still does.
embrace it.
But so when I was 14, I actually went to Peace Camp. And so I was not only a homeschooled kid with on and off teeth problems, but I also used weird British slang, just side note. And I also went to Peace Camp, wore bell-bottom jeans with sneakers and all of these things going on. And I had a perm.
And you played guitar.
And I played guitar. But there was just a lot of things going on. And so I definitely like one of my best friends, she's like, this whole you come back from, you know, this Peace Camp talking about thoughts and positive thinking and yoga and all this stuff, and it's weird. It's really weird. And so I was, you know, I didn't really have any friends that were into it at the time, but I was just so into this. Like, did you know that when you think happy thoughts, like it makes you feel good? Did you know that? Like it's mind blowing.
And we just didn't have, you know, websites or podcast to express that yet. So we had to, you know, just kind of be weird.
And yeah, that's the thing is like, I don't know. I mean, I think that a lot of those things, like they were out there, you just didn't know, you know, I mean, it's been apparently, you know, like taught throughout the ages. So I mean, that's what The Secret says.
Not in
I
my
believe
family.
I don't know. I will say when you're talking about like our similarities, I mean, we definitely got the hustle.
Yeah,
Got that gene where we're all like, what's the next thing? Let's do this. Let's do that. What if we try this? I want to do that too. You know, like, let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
So
kind of growing up, like being homeschooled, being the weird kids, being, you know, all the things. And I like how you like talk about your first like experiences with positive mindset. For me, mine was reading the book The Power of Positive Thinking, and I didn't read it until June was already born, which is how I judge my years. So I had to be like 22-ish maybe. And which I've always kind of been like an annoyingly positive person. and but I started reading this book, and it literally just like, you know, in the book, he tells you to be intentionally positive. And I was in the middle of reading this book, and my sister's, Danny's favorite story was I was being annoyingly positive, and you know, my sister and my husband were not into that. And it was Christmas, and we were decorating the tree, and we were having like a time with this tree. Okay. And so I responded with, well, at least the tree is really green and it's really full. And I am continually mocked 7 years, 8 years later for that statement. And anytime I say anything overly positive, is the tree really green and full, Sammy? And like, you know, I was trying to be intentional, but eventually, like he says in the book, it does spill over into your subconscious. And now I subconsciously just think the tree is really green and full, and I don't have to say it out loud. I still do, because that's why I have a podcast. But
yeah, I would appreciate it if you said that. I'd be like, oh yeah, you're right.
So now I'm gonna have to, now you can make me a coloring page for that. The tree is really green and full.
I need to know that. You write this down.
Make t-shirts. Yeah.
Get a t-shirt.
Yeah, get t-shirts. You know, gotta get that merch
for Christmas. Make a Christmas shirt.
Exactly. But I like how you're like, you know, creating the positive mindset, and I think that a lot of people will talk about like, you need a positive mindset, but like, how do you create a positive mindset? So what do you say to people who this is brand new to them? How do they start to create a positive mindset?
Yeah, so I would say the first place to start especially with being intentional, is you want to really watch your words.
Yeah.
Because so easily we say things that isn't what we talk about the things we don't want all the time. And so this is something that I really try to do. So when I'm creating an affirmation coloring page, so it's what I've been doing a lot of this lately. And there are so many phrases where that have don't in them. Like don't, like especially one that I've been struggling with because I really wanted to make some donut coloring pages, and I wanted to put donut worry be happy. But it's like, hold up. You don't want to focus on the worry. You want to be
Exactly.
happy. So you should just be happy. And then you can put donuts, you don't have to put the rest.
That's true.
So, but it's funny because sometimes like those, like there are sometimes I will say, and I've struggled with this, where if you have a really bad day, like there is something to say for just being like, you know what, today is just the worst,
Yeah.
and just acknowledging it. But when you, like, a lot of times we say that and we're not thinking about it. And it's like, you could look at any day and find some way to see the tree as green and full.
Yep.
You really can, like anything. Like, okay, just a couple days ago, I had a car accident. And I was like, you know what? I mean, as far as accidents go, I really feel like I hit the accident jackpot. I mean, the lady that I got in an accident with, she was super nice. We sat there and like chatted about Disney for like an hour while we were waiting to do like this police report. Police officer was super nice, and like my car was totally fine. And like all of these things, as far as accidents go, could have been a lot worse, and so I can still say that.
Yeah.
And, so I think that that's something that's a really
But
good
that
place to
takes
start.
practice.
It does.
And I think that I'm kind of to that point now where I'm so annoyingly positive. So positive that it does annoy people. And I annoy myself with it sometimes. I'm just like, will you stop? Like, will you be realistic? Stop for a minute. But no, like you have to really, like when you're first getting started, you have to really stop and
Mhm.
and do it very consciously for weeks, sometimes months. I
Yeah.
mean, depending on who you are, sometimes you have to like slap yourself back into
Mhm.
focus. And it's something it's a habit.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of people will start with like counting their blessings or like writing down
Mhm.
gratitude, or
Yeah.
which I yesterday I had like a really really rough day, and the worst one I've had in a while. And I literally stopped in the middle of the day and I went and just took a shower.
Mhm.
I stuck the girls in front of Netflix. I went and got in the shower, and I'm in the shower and I was like, okay, think of things that you're grateful for. And
Mhm.
I'm just standing there like, I can think of nothing. So I'm just like, no, 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 no. Okay, what are you grateful for? And I really like forced myself
Mhm.
to stand there and just think of things that I was grateful for. And I was like, okay, you can't get out of the shower until you think of a whole bunch of things and you feel at least a little bit better.
Mhm.
And even I have to, like, all these years into doing this, you have to
Yeah.
stop and be intentional with it. And so I think like if you're really first getting started, just know that like it is a habit and it does take
Yeah.
time to
Yeah.
build it up.
And another thing that I've learned recently that you can do as well is, like, if you're doing your gratitude and you want to, you need a little extra boost, or
Mm.
you want to give it that extra boost, you can put your hands, like cross your hands over your heart, and that'll automatically like give you a little boost of happy
Mhm.
chemicals. And I mean, if you just sit there and you close your eyes and you're like, I am grateful for this. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for this. And after you keep just like naming off things that you're grateful for and trying to really feel it, it'll make a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, I heard somebody say, I can't remember who, it was a podcast or a book or something that I listened to, that they do their affirmations and they rub their arm like while they're
Mhm.
doing it. So it's like the sensation of physical touch.
Yeah.
And they said that like your arm doesn't know, your brain doesn't know the difference between it's your hand or it's someone else's
Mhm.
hand, like, giving
Yeah.
physical contact. Um, and they also say their affirmations instead of like, I am really strong or something like that. They would say it as you are strong,
Mhm.
like as in someone else saying it. I
Yeah.
was just like, oh, that's really smart.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to be like, you know what, Sammy, you are smart. And in my
Yeah.
affirmations, a lot, I will like call myself by name
Yeah.
because I have to, it almost feels like someone else is saying it to me.
Yeah.
And that's like really, really helpful. But
Yeah, for sure. And I like to do that sometimes while looking at a mirror. One of my favorite exercises is a mirror exercise, and it's something I try to do every night before I go to bed, and especially if I've had a really hard day, or
Yeah.
sometimes in the middle of the day. And so you go up to yourself in the mirror, and you look at yourself, and the main point is eye contact, and this can be really hard. It's really weird at
It
first.
is weird. I do
You're
it
like,
sometimes
hey,
too. You're looking in your own eye.
you're like, hey there, hey
Hey.
girl, how's it going? So you look at yourself in the mirror, and so this is how I've heard it from like my Jack Canfield training is, you look at yourself in the mirror, and you say, I would say like, hi Kelsey, how's it going? And you can have a little fun with it. You're talking to yourself. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So so you say like, hi Kelsey, I just wanted to take a minute today to tell you that I'm really proud of you for the work that you got done today, and the work that didn't get finished today, we're gonna get done tomorrow, or not. Like, it's your life, it's whatever's gonna happen. And just kind of chatting with myself, and at the end saying, and by the way, I just want you to know that I love you. And sometimes I do that like with the hugging, because I totally get what you're saying about the physical touch. That's one of my love languages, which I was surprised about. And so I do that a lot, where I will hug myself, and I'll look in the mirror so I can see it as well.
Yeah.
Because my love language is words of affirmation, quality time, and touch. And so I am looking at myself in the mirror, telling myself I look pretty, while giving me a hug and spending time with myself. So this is like filling my love bucket here.
Yeah, I do the same thing. And what's kind of about like looking at yourself in the eye, I did this thing. It's been a couple of years now where I decided that I wanted to try to wear less makeup. And it was and like nothing against makeup because I love
Mhm,
makeup, but like I was literally doing it to hide, to
mhm.
cover myself. And as you get older and older, you want to cover your face more and more. And I was just like, it wasn't a positive thing for me. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable in this skin. And so I, was like weaning myself off of makeup. And so I would force myself every single time I went to the bathroom, which is often because I drink a lot of water. So like every 30 minutes, I will every time I would go to the bathroom, I would, I'm washing my hands and I will look up at myself in the mirror and look myself in the eye and be like,
Mhm.
you look pretty good. You look all right. Like at first it was like, oh, you have no makeup on. And then it would like get better and better. And now I get to the point where I'm like, ooh, hey, you looking pretty good, for a 30-year-old with 3 kids, no makeup. And like 2 years later after doing this, I can
Mhm.
look at myself in the eye with no makeup on and feel good in my skin.
Yeah.
And it was really awkward at first.
Yeah.
Like, how awkward is it to look at yourself?
Mhm.
But it's just so like, but it just goes to show you, like, if you really want to create a positive habit, a positive mindset, all that it can be built. It just has to be exercised and grown like a muscle.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like a whole thing. But
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting to think about that too, because I mean, you could like look at that or see someone doing that and think like, oh wow, that's really conceited. Like, she's
yeah.
pretty, into herself. Like, wow. If you see someone do that, or you could be like, this girl's talking to herself, like, she's crazy. But it's, like, we should be able to say nice things to ourselves.
Yeah, like
How many
you can compliment a stranger.
Mhm.
Like, how many times have you like, "Oh my gosh, I love your nails," or "Where did you
Mhm.
get that shirt? That's so cute," or "I love your new haircut." But like, do you ever say things like that to yourself?
Mhm.
I mean, so I'll get to the point where, like, if I do get my nails done, which is very rare, I will
Mhm.
admire the heck out of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Like, "Girl, your nails look good."
Yeah, exactly, and that's wonderful,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just think that that's really special, and that's something that I've been really trying to work on. Because something back to the mirror is a really big deal for me. Because when I was growing up and, I was struggling with my teeth, every time I go to the dentist and I went to the orthodontist and they would do some kind of adjustment, they would make me go to the sink,
Mhm.
and I would have to look at myself in the mirror with no teeth. And all of the self-esteem work that I had done on myself, I would look at myself in the mirror, and it would feel like it would just wash away.
Yep.
And I would look at myself, and I remember being like 14, looking at myself in the mirror and thinking to myself, I do love you. but this is not who I want to be. This isn't what I want to look like. This is not me. I don't want this for myself. And it was really hard because that was the real me.
Yeah.
But I wanted to change it because of the, like, this smile that I have now, I'm so grateful for it. And, it could be taken away, I mean, there's like steel rods up in there now, so I don't know how easy that would be, but like, I worked really hard for this, and I've never felt more myself. And I know that in the future I'll feel even more myself than I do today, but I don't know what it would have been like back then if I hadn't been doing the work that I did.
There's something to say about, I think basically what you just said is so profound, because it's like you have to appreciate the woman that you are now, but also continue to step forward into the woman that you want to be, all
Mhm.
at the same time.
Yeah.
And also kind of honoring the woman that you were in the past, the
Mhm.
child that you were in the past.
Yeah.
And you have to somehow juggle all three, the past, present, and future self. And
Yeah.
it's like it does get
No
exhausting,
pressure.
but it's yeah, it does get exhausting, but you're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, and I think about this a lot with, the women that I work with, and cuz I try to see myself in like who I was 5 years ago or 10 years
Mhm.
ago
Yeah.
in these women that I'm talking to now, and I think like, oh, you're just like, man, you're beating yourself up because like say, you're in a ton of debt or something, and you're just like, I'm a terrible person. Like past me was terrible, current me is a hot mess. And
Mhm.
but you have to forgive your past self for beating
Mhm.
yourself up so much, and
Yeah.
getting yourself into a mess or whatever it was, or
Mhm.
letting yourself hate get so bad, or whatever mistakes you made in the past. And you have to be at peace with your present self and be like,
Yeah.
you're doing the best you can. Just keep
Yeah.
going. And also like honor the woman that you want to be in the future and be like, I'm coming for you. I'm coming. I'll be there.
I love that, and I've seen that so much in the work that you're
Yeah.
doing. I feel
Yeah.
like you do that really well. You honor your past self, your present self, and your future self. This is getting very Christmas story.
It is.
In
It is. We're back to the
a positivity
Christmas.
way.
We started with the
We
green
are back to
full.
Christmas.
Yeah,
Keep coming
full.
back to this. It is only April.
Yeah, yeah. And but we I shared a post recently about the 2014 Sammy,
Mhm.
and it like blew up. It was like my second most popular post of like all time, and I was just like, okay. I just wrote it because it was on my heart, and I saw this picture pop up on my Facebook memories, and I was like, oh, it's a cute picture of me and June on her third birthday, and I should share it. And then I was like, no, 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 like what is behind this story? And I was thinking
Yeah.
about that woman 5 years ago, and in the post I was just like, I am so grateful for her, for the
Yeah.
struggle that she went through, because she knew that 2019 Sammy was possible. She believed in who I am now. And I'm just like, I almost see like myself as like two different people sometimes. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
thank you so much, past me, for like walking through that, because that was super hard. But like, hey, thank you. But
Yeah.
also, future me is still, there's still work I have to do for her. It's a whole trippy, like, here we are back into the hippie stuff.
I totally get that though, because I have this song on my latest album called Music and Lyrics, and the song is called Broken. And it's exactly what you're saying. And it's where I was going through this really hard time. This was 2015. Or no, not 2015. This was only 2 years ago. So it was like
What year was it?
2017.
What
I
year
don't know
was
what
it?
year is it. I don't know. It was 2 years ago. And I had just come out of a really, really tough breakup. It was a 4-year long relationship. I didn't know what I was doing with my life career wise. My job offer after grad school had just fallen through. To top it all off, I caught mono somehow, and I was having all kinds of just health problems and just feeling really, really terrible. I was not a positive person. I was an emotional vampire on all my friends and family. And I just felt really stuck and really lost. And I found this video on my hard drive of me performing one of my songs when I was 17 in a songwriting competition. and the song's called Travel Junkie. And it was right before I went off to college, and I was saying, I will always be a travel junkie. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And I will always be a travel junkie. And I remember that in the video, and I just started crying. And I looked at this video, and I looked at myself in the video as if it wasn't me. And I
Right.
realized that was the first time I realized that if it had been a friend or a sister or a stranger on the street that was that girl in that video, I would have gone to any length to protect her from the things that she was going to go through. And I did not do that for myself.
Yeah.
And that's a moment where I could have really easily just shamed myself. And instead, I took responsibility. And I looked at myself, and I thought, if I were to talk to 17-year-old me right now and said, "This is how I lived your life. Are you proud of me?"
Yep.
Knowing that there would have been a pause. I don't know what she would have said. She probably would have been like, "Well, yeah, you're doing the best you can, you know." But there would have been that shoulder shrug, that like, did you have to?
You
No,
could have done that
you
different.
could have done it better. You could have done better, and I mean, everything happens for a reason, and I'm so grateful for the experiences that I've gone through. But that moment was so pivotal to me, where I wrote this song immediately after, and it was saying, like, "You were so young, your heart so open. How'd you grow up to be so broken?" And it's
Yeah.
basically just an apology, where I'm talking to my 17-year-old self saying, if I could go back, I would change a lot of things. And I'm haunted by the decisions that I've made. But I'm sorry that I didn't stand up for you when I knew I could. And I watched as life just drained all of your good. And I just let it happen.
Yep.
Let it happen. This relationship, the job, the health conditions, and everything, I let happen. I stood idly by and stood for everything except myself.
Yep.
And I took responsibility. And ever since then, that moment, I thought, I'm going to look back in several years to me at this moment, and I'm going to ask that same question. And the answer is going to be, heck yes, I am proud of you. And that's been my goal ever since that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly how I feel. And that's how I want other women to feel. Like, I want them to feel like, take responsibility, and sometimes we're taking responsibility for things that sometimes were a little out of our control. I mean,
Hmm.
not all of your health stuff was your fault.
Yeah.
There were several things that wasn't 100% your fault. Always there's going to be,
Hmm.
but at a certain point we just have to be like, okay, it happened, and it
Hmm.
happened.
Yeah.
And
I think there's a difference between saying that something was your fault
yes.
and saying, I'm going to act as if I am 100% responsible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's one thing where, like, okay, like with my health conditions, a lot of it was just I was eating a very unhealthy diet, and I was living in very toxic conditions.
Yeah.
Could I have done something better for myself? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it one thing that led to one problem? No. It was many, many bad decisions
And I
of
think
just not
it's
making the
so
right.
much of like forgiving yourself. And
Mhm.
I talk a lot about it in one of my free courses, Magic and Money. It's like about unlocking the true magic within yourself, and how you
Yeah.
have to do like that heart work, that mindset work, before you can ever even think about worrying about your money, because there's
Yeah.
the whole foundation is like your heart and your mind and all of that. And one of the things is like, you have to forgive yourself for the past mistakes.
Mhm.
For the example of people who are in a lot of debt, like we were, which was the ultimate foundation for all of the other things that were a mess, was that we really had to just forgive ourselves and be like, yeah, we screwed up, like $500,000 worth, and all right, moving on. And
Yeah.
is easier said than done, but
But
we
you
had
did
to
it.
forgive ourselves, because beating
Yeah.
ourselves up about it wasn't
Yeah.
going to get us anywhere. So we kind
Yeah.
of just had to like swallow it, like just swallow that big
Mhm.
like pill, and just be like, oh, that was terrible. All right, okay, let's
Yeah.
mess up. And we kind of joke about it now, because we're just like, well, that was really stupid.
But think about, I mean, with that though, like, I just think it's so amazing that, I mean, yes, that happened, but you were able to get out of it, and the power now of knowing that you did that.
Oh
What
yeah, I feel
else
like
do
I
you
can
do
do
now?
anything.
Yeah, of
I
course.
mean, come at me. Like, like our marriage was so strained. Our money was, I mean, negative before every single payday, sometimes a couple days before payday.
Yeah.
Obviously, our marriage took the blunt of that. And, it was, gosh, like when we started budgeting, we were only in our 5th year of marriage, and cursed my mother in her 5-year curse because she told me, your 5th year of marriage is always the hardest year. And
So specific.
and she was correct. And so now, like Danny, we're just like, well, be looking out for that 5th year. But
Make sure you got your budgets in place before then.
oh,
Well, she's an
it
accountant,
was
so
it
she'll be
was
fine.
rough. I mean, you're 5 years into your marriage, you have 2 kids. Yeah, your marriage is going to take the worst of that. But now we're like, our marriage has been through this huge storm. Come at me. Like,
Yeah.
you can't, if that doesn't break us, nothing will. We're good. Moving on.
Mhm.
And we just like it has just boosted our confidence. It's just, I mean, I love to tell the story of Daniel's confidence of when he went and bought our truck in cash. And I was telling this story at a women's group. Sorry, alarm's going off. I was telling the story at a women's group, and I was like, yeah, proudest moment of this man's entire life. He went in and paid cash for a diesel truck. I mean, what, 3 kids? Like, that was his proudest moment. His confidence level is just like maxed out.
Yeah. That's amazing.
He's just like, yeah, and like, we did all this and we can do whatever. But I just, going back to it, it's just, I think like forgiving ourselves and is like really the first step,
Yeah.
and moving on, and like being able to look yourself in the eye and be like, it's okay. Like, I forgive you.
Yeah.
What can we do to move
Yeah.
forward?
That's one of my favorite coloring pages that I've made says everything will be okay.
Yes.
And that's just one of my favorite ones. Just when you say it, you just feel like everything will be
What's
okay.
really funny is I saw that coloring page. I don't know if it's one of the ones that me and the girls printed out, or if I just saw it. Maybe I saw you coloring it. Is that
Was
one
it
of
the
your
video? I did do a video of it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It was your video then. And what is great, what is hilarious is that a lot of the people who listen to this podcast know that I've been going to counseling for my anxiety and my depression, and that I am on medication for it. And my friend Alex, Alex, and
Mhm.
for her, when I was her bridesmaid, she gave, and when gave us a whole bunch of stuff for our bridesmaids gifts, and she gave me a little bitty zipper pouch that said everything will be okay, or all right.
Mm.
Yeah, everything will be all
Yeah.
right. And it just it was just around that same time that I started taking the medicine, and I felt like my whole entire life was falling apart. And it seemed like the perfect size to keep all my medicine in,
Yeah.
away from my girls, blah blah blah. And it was the perfect message that, like, every time I take my medicine and like look at it, everything will be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt such shame about like needing medicine and all that, and I'm like, you know what, everything will be all right. And so every single time I look at my medicine case, that's what I see.
Yeah.
And
And I love that. It's like positive reinforcement.
yes, and I feel, obviously, like, I'm like a year into this now, and I'm doing a lot better. um but I'm totally like, I will use those words of affirmation all over the place, and
Yeah.
I love that, and I love your coloring pages. So tell us about your coloring pages,
Yeah.
how you got into making them, and all that stuff.
So, okay. Yeah, completely by accident. So I have a business where I do podcast production and Pinterest services. And so I'm always balancing like, okay, here's my business brand, and then here's my brand that I'm trying to grow for Positively Delighted. And this was in December. It was let's say like mid December last year. And my biggest client calls me, and I already know what they're going to say before we talk. And I'm like, okay, so you guys want to transition out? That's fine. Cool. How are we going to do this? We're talking through it. And then a couple days later, I'm like, hey, I need XYZ thing. And they're like, hey, by the way, we're just going to take the rest of the month off. I'm like, okay, well, starting when? They're like, today.
We're done.
And it's 2 weeks before Christmas. And this project it was a daily podcast, and I've talked to them about it, and we're totally fine. But I was like, this is like a huge identity. I've been running this podcast every single day for like a year and a half. My life of digital nomading, this is the most stable thing in my life.
Yeah.
Is like brush my teeth, wash my face, and edit this podcast. And I learned so much, and it was such a big part of my identity. Like my whole life revolved around this. And all of a sudden, just overnight, I was like, well, I thought I'd have time to process this. I thought I would have time to like figure out like my next income and all these things. And I had also put myself in a bit of a financially strained position because I was trying to make the transition into other stuff with Positively Delighted. And then this just kind of got thrown at me, and life does that.
Always.
And that's what emergency funds are for. And I'd spent a lot of it making an album, which I love my album, I love it, but like have more money in your emergency fund.
Yeah.
Side note. But yeah, so at that moment I was like watching my nieces, and I'm at my parents' house. I'm like, I am in such a wonderful environment right now. I need to be happy. You need to be happy right now. You have children in the house. And I'm like look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, you need to fix this. And I will say, like, apart from my breakup last year that I went through, this was like the saddest moment of the year, because it was just such a big loss to my identity. And I'm just sitting there like, I need to be happy. What do I need right now? I need a coloring page. And I don't have one that says what I needed to say right now. And I need one that says good things are going to happen, because I want to believe that good things are going to happen. I know this is all going to work out. I know everything's going to be okay, but I need to believe it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make one. I've always wanted to make one. I don't know how to do it. And I've always kind of held myself back because I'm like, well, I don't know how to, like drawing and all these things, like it's so complicated. And I'm not, I'm not good at it. And all of these thoughts of, like
ourselves.
the things that we tell ourselves when we're scared.
Yes.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. It's for me. What does it matter? Like, I'm going to do it. And so I found out how to license artwork and clip art and fonts, and I just spent like 4 just, excruciating, like tedious, like when you're learning something new, like hours. And I made this coloring page and printed it out, and I was addicted. I colored it out as many times as I needed to believe like good things are going to happen. And then I made everything was going to be okay, and all these other ones. And then I made unicorns, then I made llamas. I spent a lot of money on clip art, and then I learned how to spend less money on clip art. And
my girls are a fan of the unicorns. They fought over the unicorns. I need to print more.
Yeah, I was like, I did give you digital files. You can, print multiples of,
But I only printed one of each of those sheets that you sent me, and they fought over the unicorns. As little girls do.
Yeah.
But I love that, like, you got into the coloring, and that I'm into the coloring, and it started for me kind of in the same way where I'm like, my life is falling apart. What can I do? What can I do? And so I've talked a lot about my year of balance, and or my year of achieve, I guess, is really where it started, was 2017. And I really like burnt myself out. And so I decided that at the beginning of 2018 was going to be my year of balance, and I was going to do other things and just work and sleep and mother my children.
Yeah.
I'm like, who are you as a person? And so I feel like I had kind of lost like there was no personal development like going on. There was no quiet time. There was nothing like that. And so that was a big part of my year of balance. And one of the things I started doing was, I was like, you get real, like, when you're sick and you just like crave that one like random food that your mom used to cook you when you were sick, like your comfort food,
mac and cheese,
or like your comfort movies. And you're like, you have to watch the cheesiest like Disney Channel movie from your childhood ever when you're sick or something.
The Newsies.
Yes. And I kind of did that with puzzles. And I was like,
nice.
we had so many good times of when I was growing up, and, we didn't have a lot of money, and we were weird homeschooled kids without a lot of friends. And we would just sit around with my mom and me and my sisters, and we would just do puzzles. We'd listen to the radio. And we would just talk and talk. And talk.
Those are really special memories.
Yeah. And I just got real like nostalgic, and I was mentally sick. And I was just like, what will make me feel better? I'm going to do a puzzle. And so I started doing puzzles, and honestly, like, I still love puzzles, but honestly, what kind of burnt me out on puzzles was my anxiety was so bad to the point that my hands would shake, to the
Mm.
point that, like, I was struggling to put puzzle pieces together.
Mm.
That's how shaky my whole entire body was. And so I kind of started to branch out of the puzzles, and then I got into coloring. And I just found a coloring book, and it was like 99 cents, and I was like, "Hey, let's sit with
Yeah.
the girls and color." And when like adult coloring first became a thing like a couple years ago, I did it, but then I kind of
Yeah.
got bored and, you know. So I was just like, "Look, I need something that's not staring at my phone." And actually when I started going to counseling, that was one of the things she said. She was like, "You need to unplug. You need to do
Mhm.
something quiet. You need to do something for yourself." And she's like, "You need to read a physical book, and you need a hobby that it does not involve a screen." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey." So I went on the look for a physical book, and I was out shopping, and I happened to find this coloring book. And she was thrilled. She was like, "That's the perfect thing." So I started coloring, and it has been like literally a lifesaver.
Mhm.
Literally a lifesaver. And my favorite thing is to color and or do a puzzle. Um, or draw or something like that, and listen to an audiobook or listen to
Mhm.
a podcast. And so you're actually learning, but relaxing at the same time. It's like your
Yeah.
mind is working, but your body is resting.
Mhm.
And it's a very nice like in between for somebody like me who's high strung, who's like goal oriented to a fault.
Mhm.
um so it's kind of, it was really interesting to me that like you were kind of were on the same kind of like, I need a coloring page to fix my life.
Yeah, and that's what I love so much about them, and I love coloring as well too, because I feel like we have pretty different coloring styles as
Yeah.
well. Because
Yeah.
you have the patience for tedious and more intricate, not
Yeah.
tedious, intricate coloring
No,
pages.
you can
I
say
do not.
tedious because
I do
there's
not.
some where I'm just like, I'll never finish this.
Yeah. And so sometimes, like, that's the thing that I struggled with a lot of other coloring pages was like, I want something easy. I
Yeah.
want something that's pretty. I want to feel good when I finish it. And I love that, like, I've actually been doing videos of like time lapses. So I know that like some of my coloring pages take about 18 minutes to 30 minutes to complete. And that's if you get really, fun with them. And what's really cool about that is I've learned from some of my coaching that about we have about 60,000 thoughts a day, which is
Wow.
exhausting to
That's
think about.
crazy.
So crazy, and about 80% of those are negative, which is just so sad to think about in
Mind
general,
blowing.
and also 95% of the thoughts we think today are the same as the ones we thought yesterday.
That's
There's
crazy.
not a whole lot of new stuff going on. A lot of it's just like routine. And
Yeah.
you change that through habits. And so what I love about these coloring pages, and I've been using them for, is when you sit down with one of these coloring pages, it's like 20 minutes of positive thinking. There might
Mhm.
be some thoughts in there like, will this ever be completed? What color should I use? That looks really ugly. And then you come back and you're like, I like this coloring page. Yes, everything will be okay. Everything should be okay. Rainbows don't have to look like other people's rainbows. I can color my rainbow however I want. And it's just very freeing.
Yeah.
And by doing that think of how many positive thoughts you're going to have in 20 minutes to 30 minutes with this coloring page.
And for me, sometimes it's even the
Mhm.
mindlessness of it. It's a nice, like, zero gravity kind of
Yeah,
experience. Like, I'm just,
kind of like a reset.
negative or positive. I'm not trying to achieve a goal. Um, I know you know Melissa Griffin, and I
Mhm,
don't know if you know that she took like an extended break from like work, like a 6-month break, and I
mhm.
kind of didn't realize until she came back, and I was like, oh yeah. But she posted this, her post, like her first post back, and she was talking about how she was doing artwork. It was so profound, and I was like, that's exactly why I love it. She was
Mhm,
talking about that during her like hiatus, she did a bunch of artwork, and she said that as a natural like overachiever, perfectionist, goal oriented person, which is how I identify myself, um she said it was nice to do something that was just for her. It was
mhm.
not for a goal, that was not for praise, that was not for anything, not to please anyone. It was
Yeah.
just for the sake of doing.
Mhm.
And I was just like, that's why I like it too. It was just kind of like this light bulb moment that I
Yeah.
didn't really realize. Um, And I also think it's just so sweet and innocent. Like, it's just an
Mhm.
innocent, like that comfort food when you're sick kind of thing. Like, it's just
Yeah.
warm, comfy.
Yeah.
and,
Absolutely.
and Daniel picks on me for my coloring, teases me. And we tease back and forth because when he's at work and he has downtime, he plays video games.
Mhm.
And when I have downtime, I color.
Yeah.
Neither one of us really have much room to judge because those are both very childish things. And he was like, he'll tease me about coloring. I'm like, this from a 33-year-old man who spends free time playing video games. Okay. Yeah.
To each their own.
Yes. But it's kind of the same experience.
Mhm.
You just want to feel like innocent. You just want to feel,
Mhm.
just not worrying about adulting stuff all the time and
Yeah.
do something positive or do something just for the sake of doing it.
For sure, and that's what I think it's funny that I started making these coloring pages, like, for me, and then I made them for my nieces as well, but my initial thought was like, "Well, these are for adults.
Yeah.
They may have unicorns on them, but these are for adults,
No,
like, these are for women."
I'm doing my create this book, which is, probably for children, but my girls love them and
Yeah.
they freaked out that I wanted to do one too. And when we
Yeah, that's so
got them,
special.
when we ordered them, they were like, "You really did get yourself one?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, I'm not letting y'all have all the fun." And I color in mine like every day.
That's so great.
They're, like, here and there with theirs, like, they lose
Mhm.
theirs, and I'm, like, religiously carrying and, like, doodling and all these things, and I draw, like, a rainbow on, like, every page. And I don't
There you
even care.
go.
No shame at all.
Yeah, and it's funny that I went into it with such a, like, this is for, like, me, and people like me, and then seeing, like, when I opened my Etsy shop, like, 3 weeks later after that, the initial coloring page, I started seeing that, like, the people who were buying it were moms who were buying it for their daughters
Yeah.
for their birthday parties,
Yeah.
and so I'm sitting there like, I can tell this because all of the items they're favoriting are, like, unicorn invitations. And I'm just sitting there like, "Oh my gosh, not only did this mom choose my coloring pages for their daughter, but there's gonna be a whole room full of little girls who are getting unicorns and affirmations that I gave them." Like,
Yeah.
there's like one of my proudest moments is, like, making that realization.
Yeah. And, helping the next generation and, helping, like, the next generation of women. Like, that's amazing. So,
Yeah.
I love that.
I have just a quick little story about, like, I did an event early last month at for a group called Full Time Families. It's for families who RV full time on the road. And I did an event on self-esteem called Confident Girls, Confident Women, and I made this special coloring page that said positivity is my superpower and had a little superhero girl. And it was really cute and they really liked it and I had about 80 moms and daughters, and my friend Liz was telling me after the event about the story about her daughter Chelsea. Chelsea's 4, and she was coloring this coloring page, and Liz said, "Well, Chelsea, what are you doing?" And she looked at the coloring page and she said, "She's a girl. She's a superhero. She is me, Chelsea." Like, she made this
I
realization,
love
like,
it.
she could see the wheels,
Yeah.
like, turning in her 4-year-old's mind, and 2 weeks later, I saw them at another event, and Chelsea is, like, my biggest fan. She's telling people that I am her aunt, and she's saying, "This is my Aunt Kelsey, she's a princess, and I am a superhero." 2 weeks later,
That's
she's still
so
telling
cute.
people, "I am a superhero." And my heart just melted.
I love
So
it.
melted.
I love it. I love it. I just like just from like a mother of the future generation of women, like it's crazy and I just love how like we do have that opportunity to be that influence
And
and
I get
every day.
inspiration from you
Yeah.
working on affirmations with your girls. 'Cause I
Yeah.
remember you sent me, like, a video of their affirmations, and
Yes.
I was like,
Melly
"That is
hasn't
what I
done
need."
hers in a long time, but Um, for those people who don't know the story, so we did this thing where it kind of actually started with June and it started with just the fact that she's 8 now. It started when she was 7. And, you start to kind of go through like confidence things. And it started with that. And it kind of grew into Melly just because she's the littlest and freaking adorable. And so it turned into their words, and they would say their words is what they called them, but basically affirmations after they'd brush their teeth at bedtime. And it was just the cutest thing. And they would just stand in the mirror and be like, I am beautiful. I am smart. I am brave. I am beautiful. Like, we didn't really have a specific order, but we just say like whatever. Um, and they're like, they would end them all with like, I'm Melanie Catherine. And they
Like
would
throw
like
their arms up, right?
throw their
Like, oh
arms
my
up.
gosh. That was
She would
so
she
cute.
would just be like, and I think she was like 2 when we started this. It was a while ago. And she would just be like, I am smart, I am beautiful, I am brave, I am strong, I'm a good sister, I'm a good dancer, I'm a good friend. Like, she was just everything that she could possibly think of. I'm
Aw.
like, I mean, the silliest little things. And then at the end, I'm Melanie Catherine. And it was just adorable. And we did it all with all of them
How
for
can
a
you
while.
not smile when you see
Oh my
it?
gosh. But what was funny was I watched the girls as each of them did it, and their confidence level like went down with each girl. So like
Mhm.
obviously Melody was like the most confident with it. And you're just like, over the years that confidence goes away, like it slowly drifts away, and we're not that confident, adorable 2-year-old
Mhm.
anymore. Slowly but surely
Yeah.
get up to a 7 or 8-year-old who's like, yeah, I guess I'm pretty, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then how does that turn into when you're like a 20 or 30-year-old woman, or
Mhm.
even older?
Yeah.
And you're just like, I don't
Absolutely.
even really want to look at myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
I was with my makeup.
Yeah, and in when I was talking with the kids at full-time families, that's one of the things that I was really excited to speak with them about because I mean, my goal with what I'm trying to do is like I want to be the person that my 12-year-old self needed.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents did everything they could to try to help me, but they didn't understand what I was going through.
Yeah.
And especially like these kids being road schooled kids, and I was a road schooled kid. They actually brought me there and they introduced me, and I wrote a blog post for them. And it was like, here's an example of a road schooled kid that did not turn out screwed up. And I was like, yes, that's what I tell myself in the
Oh
mirror
yeah.
every morning. I did not turn out screwed up. Good job. And I was like, I mean, it's
Thanks.
hilarious. It's hilarious, but maybe we need to look at our words here. Maybe we need to think about like being
Oh,
happy and successful, like because and that's the whole thing too is I feel like I had a lot of pressure to turn out normal. And so I was
yes.
like, okay, well, this is what normal looks like. And that's the thing is like there is no,
There is no
normal way to
normal.
live a life. And
No.
there's so many like pressures that we put on ourselves and even as kids to turn out certain ways and be like our friends and be liked by other people. And in the workshop, I was trying to come up with examples of like how can we, like protect our positivity and our confidence. And I thought about The Incredibles and
Mhm.
the daughter, Violet, she makes force fields. And so
Mhm.
that's what I was telling them. I was like, okay, yeah, we're really sticking with the superhero theme, like so think Violet. And whenever something negative happens, or if someone hurts your feelings, or someone says something to you and you don't feel good about it, you just put up that force field of positivity, and it will protect you. And it was just like this really visual thing to be able to like see that because you can picture that, like
Yeah.
picture that force field is going to show up around you. And that's a really powerful visual. And that was one thing too that like the whole conference, like 2 weeks after that, where Chelsea, the little girl, she was like putting her hands out, like trying to keep people away from her, like her force field, because she'd also just watched Frozen. And so she was,
Yeah.
like just pulling from
That's
all
a
these theories.
bad combination. Dangerous combination for a 4-year-old.
And it was funny. It was really sad though, because she kept putting her hands out like as her force field, and
Yeah.
then people were like, "High five!" And she's like, "No."
That's the opposite of what I'm trying to do.
So can backfire. But
Yeah.
it was just a really cool example of like picturing that. Like you can
Yeah.
protect yourself. Positivity is really powerful, but you
I
have to
think
learn how to
it's
force
so
field.
important to like, the one thing that my kids have taught me is that I need to be more like them. and more like I need to look myself in the mirror and be like, you're strong, you're brave. I need to spend more time coloring. I need to spend more time outside. I need to spend more time just giggling for no apparent reason. I mean, just all these little like innocent things that they do.
Yeah.
If we would try to be more like them, we're so focused on like being normal and like fitting into society and keeping up with whoever else is doing whatever else, that we get ourselves way off track from who
Mhm.
we wanted to be in the first place. Like you with your travel junkie, like that wasn't you. And you're so set on like, I don't want to be weird. I want to turn out normal. I don't want to be
Yeah.
like that stereotypical homeschooled weird kid
Yeah.
that you get way distracted and get way off of like who you were meant to be in the first place.
Yeah, and then you can get so caught up in the other way of like, no, I do want to be that weird homeschooled kid. And it's like, wait, no, you can be whoever you want. You don't have to be
Yeah.
one or the other. Like, you could just be like, I have a song that I wrote at the end of my album called Free. And the whole song is like, it originally started as like I don't want to be, like every day I go to work and try to pay my dues, climb the ladder and sing the corporate blues. And it was like a bummer of a song. It really sucked. And I thought about it. I was like, wow, this song like's really terrible. Like, what if I thought about what I did want instead of what I don't want? And I was thinking about like, it was kind of like a release these chains on my freedom, like I wanna live a life I wanna live. And I finally was like, well, what if I thought about, I want freedom. I want to be free. Let's think about that. Like, what does that look like? I want to be free to go where the wind blows and do what I want to do and have a say in my day and find some purpose too. And then I thought about like really what I want most of all is I want to be like most of all, I just want to be free to be me.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I feel that way every day. Every day. I feel like, oh, well, you're a homeschooled mom, so you must not like have any desire to ever be away from your children or ever have your own identity or like ever run a business or do all these things. And, I want to do both and I do both.
Yeah. You
And
can.
that's me.
You're doing it great.
Yep. I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing a good job.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite affirmations. I have the one that says, you're doing a good job. And that's again that you one. Just remember,
Yeah.
like, you're doing a good job. You're
Yep.
doing a good job. And we're always doing the best we can with the awareness that we have.
Yeah.
When we know better, we do better.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's a good place to wrap it up because we will sit here and talk for hours. So thank you so much for coming on here. We're going to link to everything in the show notes for you guys. Kelsey has some coloring pages that you guys should totally check out. Are you going to give us a coloring page?
I am. I'm going to make you a very special coloring page. I'm really tempted to make another one now that says the tree is green and full. So maybe.
I'll link to your Etsy shop too with all of your other ones.
Thank you.
It's just a really fun little budget friendly thing that you can do in your podcast, of course, and all your other stuff. So thank you so much for being here and taking the time out of your night, because let's not pretend like we did this first thing in the morning, out of your night to hang out with us. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks for having me. It's so much fun.
Bye, guys.